webinar is designed to guide and help teachers to smoothly transition from face-to-face teaching to online teaching. So I'm Pankaj Chavan. I'm a research fellow in the Department of Educational Technology at IIT Bombay, and I'll be the presenter. And along with me today, we have Dr. Kapil Kadam. So he will be the moderator. So on 27th March, UNESCO held its second COVID-19 education response webinar, and they dedicated this webinar to some 63 million affected teachers in 165 countries. And the director of UNESCO Institute for Capacity Building in Africa, Yumiko Yakazaki, he actually chaired the webinar, and in that webinar, she basically framed an entirely new context in a positive light in such a situation. So we all are going through this situation of COVID-19. It's a pandemic going on, and most of the things are happening which we are not very comfortable with. So in such a situation too, she basically framed an entirely new context. And she said that as necessity is the mother of invention, this situation may become an opportunity for teachers as well as learners to become more empowered, creative, and innovative. So the point is, though we are finding it forceful to move to online teaching, but it is the necessity of the hour, and we have to do that. So as a part of that, in the process, this situation will help us, and it will provide us with a lot of opportunities, both for teachers as well as learners, to become more empowered, creative, and innovative. So I'm also holding the similar thought, and the whole presentation is on the similar path. Basically, first thing that we have to do is we should acknowledge the current challenging situation. So this is an extraordinary situation. So first thing that we have to do is be kind to yourself as well as your students. So it's not the same face-to-face classroom teaching environment. It's entirely a different context. So please try to be kind to yourself as well as your students. And this unexpected situation has forced us to move to online teaching. Okay. So now few specific pointers that we should keep in mind is, so the first one is, don't focus on recreating your face-to-face classroom in online environment. So what I mean by this is, so you don't try to recreate your whole classroom which you used to have in face-to-face setting in online. So that is the first and foremost thing you have to keep in mind. Along with that, when you identify this particular aspect, you have to focus on what according to you is crucial for students to learn. Okay, so this is very important to understand. So focusing on what you think which is essential for students to learn. Then the second, the third point is related with considering the things piecewise. So don't try to plan whole thing at the same time. Consider it either weekly or on a daily basis. And at a time, you just look at what will happen over a week or what will happen over 2 days or something of that sort. And the third and foremost important thing is, as compared to face-to-face teaching, teaching online is way more a laborious job. So you have to put a lot of efforts, and a lot of efforts will go into designing your course, then delivering it, then assessing students, and a lot of things are involved in that. So it's not that easier. So to just give you the summary of the webinar, the overview of what we'll be talking about. So we are using Google Meet. So basically I'm sharing my screen. I'm sharing the PowerPoint slides, and we will be doing some activities during this webinar. And for that, I'll be using some websites, and we will be visiting over a period of time to the websites during the activities. During this webinar, you might come across with different questions. So whenever you come up with a question, post it in the chat box. So instead of saying something in between, you can post it over that. And at the end of the webinar, I'll handle those questions. This session is recorded. And what are the session goals of this webinar? So three things we'll be looking at specifically. First thing is related with the teaching aspects, like how to deliver content online. Second is related with interaction or communication aspect, where we will be looking at how to effectively interact with students in online environment. And third aspect is related with assessment, which is nothing but how we are going to assess students in such environment. So even though these are three different goals or three different questions in a way, but this together will help you to answer the question, how to teach online effectively. Okay. And to talk about the scope of this webinar, so this webinar is general. I give a very broad overview of what, how, and when. So I'll not be going into the specifics of tools and most of the things. Okay. And whenever you see this colored slide, it means that we are doing some activity. So please be attentive and participate in the activities. Okay. So what to expect and not to expect from this webinar, because it is very important to make it clear at the first part itself, like what I'm delivering and what you can expect from this. Okay. So what you can expect is, so you'll get a detailed overview of essential aspects of online teaching. You'll also get a brief ideas about strategies and techniques to effectively move from face-to-face to online. And I'll be also talking about some tools and technologies which will assist or help in sustaining the different essential components of online teaching. And what not to expect, which is the most important part, is detailed how-to of all different tools and technologies. So you'll get a lot of YouTube videos on how to use X, how to use Y. So this detailed things I'll not be going into. What I'll be looking at more is integration of pedagogy and technology. So what instructional strategy, which tool goes along with that, and how to use that. So technical know-hows, I'll not be going into that much details. Then what you cannot expect, second thing is, it is not a prescription for effective online teaching. It's not something like, okay, do this, and you are very effective online teacher. So there are different approaches I'll be presenting, and you need to identify which works better for you. So same prescription will not work in the same way for each and every teacher, because the needs of students and teachers are different in different contexts. So make sure that you don't take this as a prescription. Then you try to innovate, ideate, and think about what will work in your context, what will not work, and accordingly then go ahead. Okay. So now currently most of the teacher has a very common question, like how do I teach online? So whether should I do it synchronously or asynchronously? So synchronously in the sense like students and teacher interacts in real time. So like the way we are doing. So we are now interacting real time. Asynchronously is where the students will work on the course materials at their own pace. So you are providing them course materials. They are working at their own time, at their own place, and this way the learning is happening. That is asynchronous. But the answer is not really either this or that way of online teaching. So it means that you can't say synchronous is something that you have to do, or asynchronous is something you have to do. So sometimes you will use either asynchronous or synchronous or a mixture of both. So this is not either this or that. So just telling you like it is not either this or that. In order to appreciate the complexity of the problem that we have, let's do a small activity and try to find an answer through that. Okay. Okay. So here is an activity. So what you have to do is, here you can see different words written, and different words are given different colors. So what you have to do is, you have to say the color. Don't read the word. And obviously you have to keep your mics off. Okay. So try to do this. I'll give just maybe 20-30 seconds to do this, or maybe even less than that. Now what we'll do is, we'll do a second version of this activity. Okay. Now the same activity we have, but what we have here is words with different colors. Now what you have to do is say the color. Don't read the word. It means the first line would look like green, orange, black. Okay, so try to do this. Try to say the color right from this row to this to this. Maybe I'll give 10-15 seconds for this. Face lot more difficulties here as compared to the previous one. So the thing is, here why you are facing this many difficulties, why you are stumbling upon the things. This is something what is happening currently. So we are used to something like this, like same color, same word, and now what we are in a situation is something like this. Okay, so this is what is happening with most of the teachers who want to teach online currently, right? So we'll now look at what exactly happened in case 1 and case 2. So let's say case 1 where the color and words were similar. So this is similar to something like this. So in face-to-face setting, we are very aware about how to plan lectures, how to organize our course, then what method to use in classroom teaching, then how to assess students, how to respond to student questions or queries. Then you are also well versed with how to encourage student participation. So most of the aspects that I have written here. So in face-to-face setting, we are very comfortable with this. Okay. So we can say that in face-to-face settings, we have knowns mostly. Okay. But the question to ponder upon is, okay, we know all these things, but why do we know that? Why there are many knowns in face-to-face settings? So the first point is, we are very familiar with the structure and common practices of face-to-face settings because this is something we are doing over years. So we are very familiar with structure and common practices of such setting. Even though you are a new teacher, the experienced teacher will help you to do something similar. In addition to this, you are very comfortable with the structure and practices of this particular type of setting because of which there are many knowns. Now, in addition to this, there are different factors. For example, oral communication between and among teachers and students. So, you are delivering a content or a lecture in your classroom, then you are facilitating classroom discussions. So, you are physically present. Both teachers and students are physically present. So, that oral communication is something which is very effective and rich in nature. Along with that, when you are teaching in actual classroom, you get different cues like visual cue, for example, facial expression of student. You say, yeah, I think this student did not understand this. So maybe I'll repeat, or maybe a question, I may question that particular student. So these two aspects together, basically what it does is, it makes the communication a very rich medium in face-to-face setting, because of which the socially and emotionally we are together, and we are able to identify both the aspects. Social in the sense we are in the same physical space, we can interact easily, we can communicate easily. Emotionally in the sense we can get an idea of someone is confused, someone is engaged or not. So these are some factors which contributes basically to these nodes. Now in online setting, what happened, if you see, all these particular aspects of classroom teaching now have been converted into questions. Now all these are questions to us as teachers. Okay, how to plan lectures in online classroom, how to assess my students, how to best do that. It's not only about how to assess, but how to best do that particular part. So that is the reason in online setting there are mostly unknowns. Okay. Now, how to convert these unknowns into knowns? Because as a teacher we have to do that. Because if we want to make the educational experience both for teacher as well as students great, in that case we have to convert these unknowns into knowns. But how to do that? The first thing is, as I said, in face-to-face setting, you are very familiar with structure and practice. So first thing that you have to do is, you have to make yourself familiar and try to make yourself familiar with the structure and practice of online setting. For that, you first need to understand what is the structure and what are the common practices in online settings. Once you get familiarized to that, you also need to get comfortable with that. Just getting familiar will not help. So you have to also get comfortable with that. Comfortable in the sense what? So if you practice something consistently, you get comfortable with that particular practice. So in a similar way in online setting, once you get familiarized with the different structure and practices of this setting, try to make yourself comfortable with consistent practice. Now the questions like how to improve the communication between and among teacher and students in online setting. So this remains a question. Along with that, how to overcome the limitations such as lack of visual or other cues, because here you'll not be able to see student expression. Someone is confused, someone is bored, someone is engaged. You'll not be able to see that. Okay, so these are some limitations that or some questions for which you have to seek answers as teachers. So for that, what you have to do is you have to put a lot of efforts to make the online communication a rich medium both for social and emotional aspects. So this is something that you should work more towards. But now I've told all these things like do this, and all many things I told. But now the question is where to start from. What is the starting point? Because it just looks very complex thing. A lot of things are going on simultaneously, and I don't know where to start from. So start with searching for answers to some important questions, such as how to teach online, how to interact with your students online, and how to assess students online. Okay. So these three aspects, like how to teach online, how to interact with students online, and how to assess them online, these aspects are distinct, right? But even though these aspects are distinct, they are interrelated. So you can't say I'll teach in a particular way and I'll assess students in some other way. So whatever you have taught, in a way you have taught, you have to assess them in a similar way. Similarly, you can't say, okay, the interaction will not matter in assessment. Definitely it will. In this particular context, it will. Because let's say in classroom setting, in face-to-face classroom setting, you have assessed students. Then you give them their answer sheets. Then they may ask you some queries. You may give them some feedback. But how you will do that in this online environment? So this is also a very important aspect. So that is the reason. What I'm saying is, even though these three aspects are distinct, they are interrelated. They are intertwined. Okay. Hence, it is necessary to look at these distinct but interrelated aspects through a single lens. We can't just separate them out. We can't just say that, okay, I'll just look at online teaching, I'll just look at interaction, I'll just look at assessment. You have to look at all the things as a whole. So through a single lens, you have to look at all these three aspects. Okay. So how best to do that? So I was also searching for the same question. And what, as a researcher, what I found out and what I know from my previous experiences is there is one popular and helpful framework to do this. So basically, this framework is to design a best educational experience for students in online learning. And that framework is known as Community of Inquiry Framework. So here you can see there are different elements like teaching related element, cognition related element, social related element. I'll go into the details of this. I mean, not much details, but I'll just briefly talk about all these aspects. Okay. Yeah. So to start with, the first element of this particular framework is teaching presence. Now, what is the meaning of teaching presence? So teaching presence is a teacher's ability to design, facilitate, and guide the student learning as we do it in classroom to achieve specific outcomes. So we know that from this lecture, student should understand this. Student should be able to do something after this particular lecture. So what teaching presence means is it's a teacher's ability to design some material, facilitate that material use, and guide the students in the process of learning to achieve some specific outcomes. Then the second element is known as cognitive presence. So basically, what is a cognitive presence? It is the ability to construct knowledge and understanding. So how do we do that? For example, we are sitting in the classroom. Students are also there. So we sometimes ask questions. We probe questions. We pose some question to them. If something of this type happens, what do you think will happen? So that way, that question posing, now it is leading to some thinking process. And that way now students are thinking about different possibilities. That way now they'll discuss with their other students, their peers, and knowledge construction will happen. And through that way, they'll understand the concepts. Now, how do they do that? They do it individually as well as collectively. It's not an individual process. It's not student just listens and he learns. He listens. He asks something to other students. He asks something to teacher. He discusses, and through that collective efforts, the learning is happening. So this is the meaning of cognitive presence. Now, what this overlap is? So basically, this overlap is nothing but regulating learning. So here, teacher will regulate the learning. So for example, as I said, teacher will pose question, ask students to discuss, then again bring them back to whatever he's saying. So he'll share his own meaning of something. So that way, he's regulating student learning. So this overlap is nothing but student learning regulation. The third aspect is social presence. So it is nothing but the ability to project oneself as real, both socially and emotionally. So to just give you a simple example, in the classroom, when you ask question, so some students raise hand. Okay, so they project themselves as real. They say, yeah, okay, so I have a doubt. They raise their hand, or they talk to some student. They discuss with them. So they project themselves really. So that real picture of themselves they project into the community in which you as well as students are there. And how it happens? It happens socially as well as emotionally. Okay. Now the next part is related with this overlap. So this is nothing but setting climate. What it means? So for example, as a teacher, I'm encouraging collaboration. I'm asking students to discuss. So that way, I'm setting a climate for those students, saying that you can discuss. Okay, you should discuss, or you enable risk-free expression. You can say that, yeah, you should voice your opinion. You can tell me if you are not understanding something. Social presence and cognitive presence, this overlap is nothing but supporting discourse. It means that if students collaborate, if students collaborate with each other, then they'll exchange some information. After that exchange, they may connect their own ideas with whatever they have discussed, and they may try to individually or together apply different ideas to different context. So, a simple example. For example, you are teaching some subject where there is problem solving involved. So, you solve one problem, and then after that, you gave some problem to students. And what you ask them to do is, okay, you have to solve this problem on your own. But now you can discuss with other students, with your friends, you can discuss. So they may exchange information in that, and someone knows X, someone knows Y. They'll discuss, they'll exchange that information. Then student A may connect X with Y, and according to that, now he is in a position to say apply his idea to the new problem that is given to him. That way, this sense and meaning making will happen. So these aspects are very important to understand. And this together, all this together will create an educational experience both for teacher as well as student. So it's not only designing material, it's not only collaboration, it's not only giving some task, it's about all together. So that will create the educational experience. So who will do this? So basically this element teacher takes care of, because mostly course material design, teaching methods, then design of assessments, it's taken care of by teacher. But this cognitive presence aspect, both students and teacher will take care of. So here regulation of learning is happening from both sides. Okay. And similarly, here also in social presence, student and teacher both are responsible for establishing social presence. Okay. Fine. Now, I've talked a lot about this framework, but now just to get relief from that, we'll do some activity. So what I'll do now is, I'll show you two courses. So one course is designed by teacher A, another course is designed by teacher B. And I'll show this course on one learning management system, which is known as Canvas. So I'll tell you what Canvas is and how to use that. And what I'll do is, I'll show you a 1 week content of each course. What I'll do is, I'll show you two courses, one course by teacher A, one course by teacher B, and I'll show you 1 week content of each course. But now what you have to do is, you have to evaluate different aspects of both the courses. That courses will have different things, and you have to evaluate them. What is there? What particular thing the teacher is doing? Okay, you have to evaluate those aspects. So what is working? What will work? What will not work? Which is good? Which is bad? Okay. And then to do that, I'll walk you through the different aspects of each course. I'll show teacher A course what it contains, teacher B course what it contains. And then you have to decide which course has a good design of online learning, either teacher A's course or teacher B's course. So let's start with that activity. Yeah, so here you see there are two things. So this is the Canvas learning management system. There are different features of this system. For example, what you can do with this system is, you can create announcements, you can create assignments, you can create discussion forums, you can grade students, and many other features are there. Okay, so you can explore these features on your own later. But now I'll show you what exactly the course looked like. So this is the teacher view. Now I'll give you student view. Okay, yeah. Now what is there? So this is the week 2 of this particular course. The course is of fluid mechanics. And now what you can see here is, the teacher has uploaded some content. So there is video lecture 1 on viscosity, video lecture 2, Newton's law of viscosity, video lecture 3. He also uploaded some additional materials, additional resources for students. And at the end of all these things, he conducted one quiz. Okay. So I'll give you one just example of how it looks like. So for example, this is my own video. So you see, this is a 14 minutes video. The duration is 14 minutes. And now, student will go through the whole content of this particular lecture, and then
Pankaj, sorry to interrupt.
The student may watch second lecture, third lecture. He
Pankaj,
may
this is
go through the
Kapil.
additional material. For example, here is some additional material link. So he will get redirected to something like this. So some other presentation or some additional material the teacher has provided. Okay. Now, let's say a quiz will go into. So the quiz is of 20 points. It means 20 marks. So here the student can put the quiz. Okay. There are around 10 questions involved in this. Okay. So what you have to do now is, so you take some time. I've showed you this. So I'll give you around 3 to 4 minutes. Think about all these different contents and write it in your notebook or somewhere, right? And just keep that with yourself. So evaluate different aspects of this particular design of week 2 course. Now we will move towards the teacher B's course. Okay. So I'll leave the student view now and I'll go to teacher B. Okay. So this is the course designed by teacher B, the same course and the same week of content he designed. Now I'll show you the student view. Okay. Yeah. Now, if you see here on this right side, if you see, there are different announcements. For example, here is an announcement that week 2 is starting. So here the teacher has said that he can start accessing the content and he has given some instruction. So how to do work on this particular week content. Okay, this instruction is given by the teacher through announcement. Along with that, he said that maybe after going through this content on 1st May, I'll take one live session where we can discuss the student questions, queries, and all other things. Okay? So this is the second announcement that teacher made. Now, along with that, if you see the content now, so how he has organized the content. So the first thing is there is a video lecture. Then there is something called as muddy points. I'll tell you what muddy points is. So basically, muddy points are what? So this is nothing but a forum where all students can post their questions or answers. If they have some doubts, some confusion, some difficulty if they have, they can post their questions. They can answer other students' questions also. Then teacher is saying that he'll check this forum every day. So if there are some student questions, he'll try to answer the questions posted by students every day. Okay. Now, after that, what you can see is video lecture one student will go through. Then if they have some doubts, they can post it here. Then there is some short quiz. After this, video lecture 2, then what he has done is he has demonstrated one numerical. Then again there is muddy points thing. Then he has given some practice problems to students. They have to solve that and they have to submit it to the teacher later. Now, I'll show you one lecture. So we have seen the previous course lecture, right? Okay. Same video is there. Now I'll show you what happens here. So he starts the lecture, and then he goes through the content. Okay. Now what you can see here is these are different pauses. Okay. So what these pauses do is, so it may ask questions to students. Some questions. So now you see here is what will happen. So at this point of time, the video got stopped and some question appeared. So here I was discussing about what is the difference between viscosity and friction. So to make sure whether students have understood that or not, I'm asking the question, what is the difference between friction and viscosity? So he may write something, okay, this is the difference, and then he'll submit. Okay. So once he submit that question, the answer to this particular question, he then can click on continue. Once he clicks on continue, the video will go ahead in a similar way. Okay. So there are different 3 different types of questions I have kept here. So like here now I have a multiple choice question. Okay. So my student may give some answer here, and then once he submits the answer, he can continue watching the video. He answered that, but now I'm asking him to justify his answer. It's not just whether it's correct or wrong. He also has to justify that answer. So how it will help me as a teacher? So there are 2 things. So by keeping such pause points, I'm letting them to take a breath. So it's not like they are watching 14 minutes of video at a stretch. They have watched some 2 minutes of video, then some question popped up. They thought of that question. Okay, what is the answer? Then they wrote something. Then again they started watching the content. So again, some other question popped up after 4 or 5 minutes, right? And when I asked them to answer the multiple choice question, along with that, I'm asking them to justify the answer too. So it means that here the student teacher is trying to understand whether students have really understood it or not, whether he was able to make sense out of that. Okay? That justification will help teacher to assess students. In this type of video, you can create with one tool, which is known as Edpuzzle. So I'll show you just what exactly the interface looks like. So this is some.com. So if you go here, you can add content. So you can give some YouTube links or some other links here. You can add your own video also if you have some video with yourself, like this video I have uploaded. Then after adding content, like you see here, these questions or notes I have. So you can edit and put different questions in the video. So this particular type of tool is known as Edpuzzle. So basically this type of pause and asking students to answer something, they are known as reflection spots. So basically what reflection spots do is, so reflection spots help students to reflect upon whatever they have just learned. Reflection spots can be of different types. So it can be a recall type of thing. So like, what is the difference between friction and viscosity? It's a recall type of thing, or maybe understand type of
5 o'clock.
But when I asked a MCQ and after that I asked them to justify answer, it means that I'm asking them to go more deeper as compared to just answering yes or no. Okay, fine. Now I'll show you how you can upload practice problems for students. So yesterday only I created this, okay, and I was not able to upload PDF here. So then what is the solution? So I click picture of the numericals from my book and I uploaded it on Drive, and then I gave link here. So now students can go through this link and they can see what is the list of problem, and then they can solve particular problems that is asked to them. And they have to submit here also. So they can solve it on paper. So what I'm asking is solve problems on paper, then take a picture of it with your mobile and submit here. Then submit it here. Okay. So as now this way I can conduct assessment of student. Okay. So now I'll show you one specific activity I did. So maybe I would like you to watch this entire video. It's of 3 minutes, but maybe it's worth watching. Oh, sorry. Okay. So video I think is unavailable. Okay. So basically I'll tell you what the video is about. So the video, there are 4 different types of fluids. There is chocolate, there is pudding, and there is milk and some other fluids. And behind the blocks in which that fluids is kept, the glass container, behind that watermelon is kept, and a shooter is shooting the glass. Now the student has to predict whether which watermelon will sustain, which fluid will be able to stop the bullet. Okay, so this was a kind of video, it was there. And then at the end of it, they can see that pudding was able to stop the bullet. Other fluids were not able to do that. Around this particular video, I created an activity. So this activity is something like, okay, so we want to know more about why it happened. So I triggered an event, their thinking process, showing that something happened. Then now see why it had happened. So I am asking them to go into deeper level of that. I'm asking them to do something like search it in textbook or internet, then write down, identify what all different fluids are there, write down their characteristics, what is the differences between the different types of fluid, list their examples, and post their work on demystifying fluids here. After posting that, I'm asking them to comment on their friend's work. So it's not only you posted your solution, but you also have to comment on your friend's solution or their work, give them suggestions and ideas to improve the work. And then at the end of that, teacher make a summarizing discussion, like what all students have submitted, and then what is the outcome of this particular activity. Okay, so maybe I'll stop here, and yeah, and there is assimilation quiz at the end of it. So there are some short quizzes, some assimilation quiz at the end of it. Now I'll again give you maybe 4 or 5 minutes here to think and write about what all different aspects are involved here. So if you want to see a particular aspect, you can just unmute your mic and tell me that I want to see this. So just to remind you about what you have to do. So this I'll show the activity again. So 1 week content I showed you. Now teacher A I showed already. Teacher B's course I showed. You have to evaluate different aspects of both the courses, and then you have to decide which course has a good design. But you have to make some points also. So write your own points why you think something is good, something is wrong. Okay. Now there is one activity. So go to menti.com. So link is given here. Just so the question is, according to you, which teacher's course has a good design of online learning? Teacher A, teacher B, or both designs are good. So you can choose any of the three options. So go to menti.com and use this code. Okay, so now you can see I have some responses here. Now I got 77 responses. Maybe I'll move ahead with this only because I'm not sure whether others will be able to vote. Okay. So most of the teachers are saying that teacher B's course design was good. Now what you have to do is you have to share your answers in chat box. For example, whoever is saying teacher A, you have to post what worked, what did not work for teacher A. Okay, this is the first thing you have to do. Or at least think about it and post it in chat box. Quickly we'll do it. We'll not spend much time on this. So I'll just give summary about teacher A, what he did. So the first thing is he posted a series of video lectures, video lecture 1, 2, 3. Those video lectures were long. So basically long video lectures results in a monologue. In the sense like you are telling, students are listening for 15-20 minutes and maybe longer than that. So what happens because of this monologue decreases student engagement and attention. And we can say that as videos are long and they are monologues, this teaching presence. So this is the design aspect because long video the teacher used. So this is related with creation of content and design of content. But this aspect influenced cognition in the sense like student attention decreased. So then the second aspect is students can see and listen to teacher explanation. That is a very good thing. So this is taking care of social presence. Like I'm able to see the person who is explaining something. So that is a good aspect of teacher's aid design. Then there was a list of additional resources. That is good. But no instructions were provided to students on how to use that. So this teaching design particularly influenced cognitive presence or the way the students will process the information. If student just looks at, okay, this is a material, okay, how to use it, I don't know, just leave it. That may happen. Then there was a summative quiz for a week. So that is a good thing. He was assessing students, but that quiz was summative. Continuously, he did not assess the students. And now the most important aspect from this teacher's aid design is just creating or providing video lectures or PPTs, PDFs or reading materials to students will not result into effective online teaching. Keep in mind, some aspects are good, some aspects of this design are good. But now what will happen? You just give series of videos. Students are watching at their end. They are at their home. They are watching the videos. Then you give some quiz at the end of the videos. That's it. There is no interaction between student and teacher. There is no interaction between students and students. So that is not an effective way of learning. So no collaboration is happening. No students are working together. There is no communication between teacher and student. So just creating or providing video lectures, keep in mind, or other materials like PPTs, PDFs or reading materials, giving it to students will not result into effective online teaching. Now we'll talk about summary of teacher B. So what teacher B did, he also used the same set of videos. But what he did, he chunked them. So he first video lecture, if you see, there were some questions embedded within the video. Okay, so these are short formative assessments. So just looking at the results of what answers students have given, teacher will be in a position to understand whether they have understood something or not. Similarly, students can also assess their own learning progress. The teacher can also keep track of whether students are really watching the video. That is very important. Just giving videos is not enough. Students have gone through that material, knowing that is also important. That is taking care of teaching presence. Okay. Now reflection spots, like post a question in the video and then ask students to think, which we saw how I did it in Ed Puzzle. So that is nothing but influencing the cognitive processes. So that way I'm establishing the cognitive presence. Now muddy points, what they do, they facilitate student reflection. They ask students to pose their questions, their doubts. Along with that, if students are getting responses, their muddy points from teachers as well as from other students, the social presence aspect has been established. So how it is done? It is done through discussion forum. So if you remember muddy points section, so that was the discussion forum where students can pose their questions, other student can answer as well as teachers can answer. The next aspect of his design was problem solving demonstration. So he gave a demonstration video. The other student also gave, other teacher also gave. But in addition to that, he also provided practice problems. So this particular aspect of his design helped to establish cognitive presence. So he demonstrated the video. He gave some content to students, some problems to solve, asked them to submit that back, and again commenting on their solutions. So that way, teaching presence is establishing cognitive presence. Then there was activity of demystifying fluids. Again, a discussion forum was involved. Then this bulletproof deserts video, which we are not able to see, but what it has done is it established a sense of puzzlement. Okay, why something happened? So that is very important to trigger the learning process. That particular aspect was there. Then I asked students to explore something. He asked them to search for information to make sense of the situation. Why something happened? Why a particular watermelon broke into pieces, whereas other fluid was able to stop that. Similarly, the teacher also facilitated the integration aspect. So what he asked, search for the information, post it on the LMS, then give feedback to other students. That way, now the students might be in a position to bring the idea of a differentiation. For example, some fluids are Newtonian, some are non-Newtonian. That differentiation they may look into, or teacher will guide the activities so that they are in a position to do such a kind of differentiation. Then teacher asked to post students' work and comment on other works. That is a social presence aspect. Communication is established. There is collaboration between students. Then what teacher is saying is he'll also conduct some live sessions. So in a week, at least one session we'll have where he'll talk with students, talk about their problems, issues. So this particular aspect has established social presence, right? Okay, now we talked about these two teachers and different aspects of it. Now coming towards the logistical aspect of this. So I showed you different tools, learning management system, which is Canvas. I showed you Edpuzzle. I showed you how to use discussion forum. I showed you announcements, assignments, quizzes, different things. But I have not gone into details of how to use that. As a teacher, because as most of us are engineering teachers, we can go ahead and explore different tools and see whether that tool is useful for us or not. And this webinar, I kept it mostly introductory so that at least some framework of how to move from Facebook face-to-face to online, teacher is in a position to identify. Okay. So now talking about tools. So how to take your content or lecture online. So there are different tools to create videos. So for example, if you want to create screencast, what is the meaning of screencast? So I'm presenting this and I'm just recording this screen. Okay, so this is a screencast. There are some tools like Screencast-O-Matic, Camtasia Studio, or OBS Studio. These are the different tools with which you can create videos. Other way is to prepare voiceover presentations. So in PowerPoint as well as in Google Slides, what you can do is you can just run a presentation like you run in front of audience, and you just select the option of voiceover. It will record the voice, and then according to each slide, the voiceover will be there. In a way, it will create at the end as a video. You can export it as a video. Then if you want to create a video in which teacher is doing board work and giving some explanation, so what you can do is you can use your own smartphone. So if you have board in your home, record it with your smartphone. But the problem is the size of the file is very big. So there is one software which is known as Handbrake. So this Handbrake software you can use to compress the big file size. Okay. You can also create tabletop videos. So if you just search on YouTube tabletop videos, you will be in a position to understand what it is. There are different video editing tools which are open source, which does not require any buying or what. And these are OpenShot and Shortcut. You can explore these tools further. The learning management system which I used is Canvas. There are other options like Google Classroom, Moodle, Edmodo, Schoology. Personally, I liked Canvas as well as Google Classroom because the interface is very easier for teachers. Because if you are a new teacher, you are not familiar with technology, then these two learning management systems I'll prefer or I'll suggest. Then what you can do with this learning management systems, you can share PDF, PPT, videos, reading materials as I showed. You can post assignments, then many more things, discussions, muddy points, all other things you can do. Okay. Now the second aspect, how to interact with students online. So how you will do that with learning management system? So you can create announcements like I did. On this particular day, I'll have a live session. You all can join. Then I have created and posted assignments which like all students have to work together. Then there was some discussion forum to collect muddy point and facilitate different activities like bulletproof deserts. Then there is poll. So for example, I use Mentimeter here. You can use some other type of polling software where you can know students' opinions about an issue or get their feedback. So what I asked, whether teacher A's design was good or teacher B's or both. So that is an opinion. That is your understanding. That is a kind of poll. So Mentimeter is one kind of tool that you can use. And the most important thing is at least have live session with your students once in a week. At least once in a week. It is very important. Just giving them content, even organized content and activities are not sufficient. So meeting live is very important so that it will enhance the social presence and the connectedness between teachers, students, and other students will be improved. So there are different tools for that. So we are using Google Meet. There is one tool known as Jitsi, where small group meetings you can hold. It is good for meetings up to 75 participants. They are saying more than 150, but above 75, the problem starts. And Zoom accommodate up to 100 participants in a free version. The most interesting feature is breakout meetings. So you can make different small groups and then ask students to make groups and discuss there. WebEx, Google Meet, Teams, different capacities these tools have. Okay. Now the last one is how to assess students online. So again, you can do it with the same learning management system. Like you can create assessments. For example, multiple choice questions, true or false, open-ended questions, both formative as well as summative assessments here you can create. So what is the meaning of formative? Like if you remember, I created quiz 1 after video lecture 1. And within the video also, I had some questions. So that is formative assessment, continuous assessment. Whereas summative is nothing but what? At the end of the week, one assimilation quiz I had. So that is nothing but summative assessment. And one more feature in Canvas specifically I saw is you can give customized feedback to the students. If some student is selecting wrong answer, you can give feedback why it is wrong, why some other answer is correct. So that is possible. Then providing feedback to students through discussion forum, then assigning and assessing projects through this particular feature of collaboration in Canvas is possible. Now assessment. So one point I yesterday thought about, like now we are not in the same physical space. We are not conducting labs, and labs are most important aspects of engineering fraternity. So how best to do that? So what you can do is, so you can go through these different resources and you can identify, for example, there is virtual labs by IIT Bombay, virtual labs by MHRD, Oscar by IIT Bombay, and identify whether you can borrow some experiments from here and give it as lab experiments to students. So there are different activities involved in different experiments if you go and explore this particular part. And what you ask them to do is, you ask them to submit a report like you usually do it in lab. What you do, you conduct the experiment or students conduct the experiments, take readings, calculate something, and then they submit it and get it checked from you. In a similar way, there are also some experiments where students have readings and they can use formula and all to calculate something and write a report out of that. So you can just explore this further. So to summarize today's webinar, so basically there are 3 essential elements of online learning from this particular framework point of view. I'm saying teaching presence, cognitive presence, and social presence. Even though I'm not talking about this particular community of inquiry framework, but these 3 aspects are very important, and as a teacher, you should take care of all these aspects. Just don't give content to students. Just don't give videos and some quizzes. Have interaction with your students. Assess them continuously. That are most important aspects. Ask students to collaborate with each other. Then we also I also showed you some tools and technologies to sustain these essential elements or these 3 elements. For example, how to use Canvas, how this screencast I used. So I have not showed you how to create, but you can explore it later. I showed you how Edpuzzle video can help in continuous assessment, how virtual labs will help. So as you now know the overview of online teaching, now here on, I personally feel that you go ahead and explore all these tools and identify what may work better for you, what may not. Okay. And what I have done is I have uploaded a checklist. So there is one university from Johannesburg, and that university has created some checklist based on these three aspects. So I've showed you like how teaching presence was established, how cognitive presence was established. But there is one specific checklist before you start the course, means you are planning the course, and while course is in progress. So what all aspects you have to take into account. So this checklist has a check boxes. You just have it on your PC and keep thinking whether you are taking care of all different aspects. So these are the two links. You can take a pic of this particular thing, and later on you can visit this link and get it downloaded from there. So this link is before underscore course. So maybe because of this underline underscore is not visible, but this is before underscore course during underscore course. Okay. Yeah. Now, thank you very much. So if you have any queries, any questions regarding this webinar that I have delivered, any help regarding the tools, or if you have any suggestions, then in that case, you can mail me on this mail address.